What is good? What is evil? Do you believe that their nature is as obvious as light and darkness? But what if I tell you they are entwined in one knot, inseparable like day and night? Is your good not a mask behind which hides the will to power, the desire to tame chaos under the guise of order? Is your evil not a cry for freedom, tearing apart the chains you wear, even without realizing their weight? Look within yourself. The good you long for, could it not be a sacrifice made to the gods of your fear? You love being virtuous because it makes it easier to look at yourself in the mirror, and evil from which you run. Could it not be the call of your spirit, tired of serving foreign truths? It frightens you, but only because in its shadow you see your own power, which you have long suppressed. Good and evil, two faces of one truth. They cannot be understood unless you break the mirror of morality imposed on you by society. Do not trust their outward appearance. Good can be the tool of a tyrant, and evil the only path to freedom. Only he who dares to step beyond these illusions will see their essence and find true freedom. Your journey begins here. Look deep, but be ready to meet there not a bright temple, but an abyss that calls you by name. You believe in morality, as children believe in tales of kind wizards. You think it exists outside of time and space, its roots buried in the ground, sanctified by divine light. But stop and look. Is it not its shadow that lies across your path? Morality is not truth. It is a chain, and it was not forged by the gods. It was forged by men, those who wish to rule without raising a sword. The laws of morality, are they not the decrees of the weak who feared strength? They built a throne of prohibitions to tame those who could break through the limits of their gray world. They called submission virtue and disobedience sin. Every step you take, every desire that does not fit within their bounds, is immediately branded as evil, corrupt. But ask yourself, who benefits from your obedience? Power does not need morality. It creates laws, it does not follow them. But the weak, who cannot create, always seek protection in rules. They tell you, be good, obey, follow. And you obey, forgetting that your goodness serves not you, but those who call themselves shepherds. They have immortalized their fear, called it universal truth. And now you are captive to this fear. Dare to break this chain. The universality of morality is a myth, born for the sake of power. Truth needs no rules. It is wild as the wind and free as fire. Stand before this truth, casting aside illusions, and you will feel how the shackles fall from you, as if they had never been there. The good, as you understand it, is it not the most sophisticated game you have ever played? You perform actions that you call virtuous, but look deeper. Who do they benefit? Are you really acting for others? Or is your noble gesture simply a transaction in which you seek a hidden gain? Your good is a coin you throw into the vault of your own vanity. You help to feel needed. You sacrifice to gain power over those you help. You forgive to elevate yourself above those who have wronged you, and all of this you call virtue. But what if this is just another form of power? Quiet, unnoticed, but no less harsh. You think that good is the light you bring into the world. But is it not this light that blinds those around you? The good you do often carries a shadow. You help, but this help turns the person into an eternal debtor. You save, but you do it not for them, but for yourself, to feel the power of being a savior. The motives of good are rarely pure. And the more you deny this, the stronger you become a slave to your own illusion. But you are not a slave, you are a creator. Acknowledge your self-interest, look it in the eye. Let it become not your shame, but your weapon. Then your good will no longer be a chain for others. It will become an act of your will, your power, your truth. And only then will it be truly pure. Check whether your good brings chaos. The good for which you raise your hands does not always create. Sometimes it destroys, like a storm that brings chaos under the mask of cleansing. You think you are helping. that your gesture is salvation. But do you see what remains after you leave? Do you look into the faces of those who are forced to live with the consequences of your nobility? Good often arises from arrogance. You rush to save because you believe yourself to be stronger, wiser, better. You interfere without realizing that you are destroying someone else's path, breaking someone else's strength. You give fish to those who could have learned to catch it. You extinguish a fire that could have tempered the person. Your good becomes a net that entangles another's wings, and then you wonder why they cannot fly. Your help can be poison if it robs another of their freedom. You come with a gift, but it brings with it a burden of gratitude. You interfere in another's struggle, and it was their only source of growth. You call this virtue, but it is merely your desire to be needed, to be significant. Look around. Do you not see how often good becomes the root of new evil? It breeds weakness, dependence, destroys the natural order of things. But you can stop. You can realize not every help is a blessing, not every intervention is salvation. True good does not suppress, does not destroy, does not rob of will. It only opens doors, but does not force passage through them. It frees, not binds. Only then does it become power, not chaos. Learn to refuse under the guise of good. Is your good not the sword you hand over to others, allowing them to become your masters? You think that to refuse is to be cruel, but doesn't your constant agreement make you a slave? Doesn't your desire to please everyone bring you to your knees before those who see your virtue only as a convenient tool? Refusal is an act of strength. It is not a rebellion against the world, but a defense of your inner order. The one who knows how to say no remains the master of their own life. But you are afraid that refusal will question your virtue. You fear being called selfish, indifferent, cold, and for this fear, you sacrifice your freedom, allowing others to manipulate your goodness. Look at how often your help becomes a tool for someone else's goals. You are flattered, praised, called generous, as long as you continue to play your role. But behind these words lies selfishness. They use you like a tool, and when you break, they will find another. To refuse is not evil. It is the art of protecting your space. It is strength that allows you to choose who and when you truly want to help. The one who fears your refusal has never seen you as a person. They have seen only a means to an end. Learn to refuse. Let your no become as much an act of good as your yes. Let it be honest, clear, liberating. Then your virtue will cease to be a chain. It will become your shield, your truth. And you will feel it. Freedom is not cruelty. Freedom is the gift you have finally given to yourself. Do you see good as strength or weakness? The good you create, could it not be a mirror that reflects your true essence? It does not exist apart from you. It does not live its own life. It is always connected to what drives you, strength or weakness. But will you dare to admit that many of your good deeds are born not from abundance, but from emptiness, not from strength, but from fear? When good comes from strength, it is like the sun that shines without asking for anything in return. It is free, generous, natural, like breathing. This good does not need approval. It does not seek recognition. It is not afraid of rejection because its source is an abundance of life, confidence in its own righteousness, inner fullness. This good knows no weakness because it is grounded in freedom. But good born of fear wears another mask. It is not light. It is a shadow that fears being exposed. It seeks to protect you from the evil you see everywhere. You do good to hide, to escape, to silence the inner voice that whispers to you about your own weakness. This good craves recognition because without it, it cannot stand. It fears solitude because it knows, without others' approval, it will crumble to dust. Realize that your good is a tool. The question is, whose tool is it? Your strength or your fear? Listen to yourself. When you perform a good deed, do you feel ease or anxiety? Does it free you, or does it bind you even tighter? True good cannot be a slave to fear. It does not submit to rules or expectations. It is born from abundance, from the fullness of life, from strength that needs no justification. Only such good becomes a true liberating force, not another form of dependence. Free yourself from the need to please. Is your desire to be kind not the subtlest form of slavery? You perform actions that are called virtuous, but deep down you feel a heaviness. It does not come from the act itself, but from the invisible eyes that watch you, judge you, evaluate you. You strive to please these unseen judges, but do you realize that all your virtue is merely a performance staged for their pleasure? You fear judgment as a prisoner fears the overseer's whip. Every gesture, every smile, every sacrifice is an attempt to avoid what you call shame. But do you know that this shame exists only in your imagination? Those before whom you bow have long forgotten your existence. Their judgment is merely a shadow you carry in your mind. To please is not virtue, it is a chain that binds your will. You think that by meeting others' expectations, you become better. But the truth is, you lose yourself. Your kindness becomes servile, forced, and in it there is no freedom left. Free yourself. Break away from those gazes, those ghostly judges who dictate how you should live. Good born of fear will never be true. It will rot from within, turning into resentment, exhaustion, hatred for those you sought to please. But good created from freedom is an act of strength. It is your yes, spoken not for others, but for yourself. It is a good in which you are the creator, not the slave. Only then will your actions be bright, sincere, and cleansed of the shackles of fear. Only then will you feel your life belongs to you, not to those who have never lived your destiny. Be honest with yourself when doing good. Is your good not a secret altar on which you worship yourself? You help, sacrifice, forgive, but take a step back and look. What drives you? Is it a true desire to bring light into the world, or a subtle, barely perceptible urge to embellish your reflection in the eyes of others? You call it virtue, but is it not becoming your most sophisticated idol? Honesty with yourself is the hardest test. It exposes your soul, strips away the masks you've put on yourself. You call yourself noble, but isn't your nobility just a way to feel superior? Don't you feel sweet pride when you see how grateful they are, how they praise you? Doesn't this pride become your reward for which you repeatedly create good? But true virtue knows no ego. It does not seek recognition, does not crave gratitude. It is free, like the wind, and silent, like the dawn. It needs no witnesses, for its source is not vanity, but inner abundance. But will you dare to look deep within yourself and admit, yes, I feed my ego when I help? This is not weakness, it is strength. Only the one who recognizes their motives can overcome them. Only the one who sees their own selfishness can rise above it. Acknowledgement is not a fall, it is the first step toward freedom. Be honest with yourself. Let your good not be a mask behind which fear or pride hides. Let it be an act of pure will, free, sincere, real. Then your good will not only be light for others, but a fire that warms your own soul. Manifest virtue through indifference. The good you are accustomed to seeing in the world is action, intervention, control. We are used to saving, helping, fixing, building bridges between people, but will you dare to admit that not every intervention is good? That sometimes the best way to do good is not to intervene, not to touch, not to fix, but simply to leave things as they are. The paradox is that true virtue requires no effort. It does not seek to change. It does not impose its will. It manifests in indifference, in the ability to let others be themselves without interfering in their path. We often forget that saving another is not always good, and sometimes it is the destruction of their life path. We intervene thinking we can improve, but in reality, our intervention only limits the freedom of others. Indifference, which seems cold, may in fact be the highest form of virtue. It is not apathy, not indifference. It is the ability to respect another's freedom, not to impose your principles, not to try to fix what does not require your intervention. It is freedom from the need to dominate, from the desire to control, from the fear that everything must be under your guidance. Your virtue is not always the one who decides for others. It is the one who allows others to walk their own path, even if that path does not align with your ideas of right. This is not weakness but strength, strength that is not afraid to leave the other alone with their choice, strength that does not feel the need to intervene to affirm its own importance. Manifest virtue through indifference, not because you do not care, but because you understand. True strength lies in not imposing your will, but in allowing others to be themselves. It is an act of respect for their path, an act of the highest freedom. Avoid suppressing others' strength with your goodness. Your kindness can be dangerous if you don't realize that it comes with a price. You offer a hand, help, save, but often fail to notice how your intervention weakens those you claim to help. Your nobility can become a chain that binds them, taking away their strength. After all, what is help if it doesn't enable a person to become strong, if it doesn't inspire them to grow on their own? When you pull someone along behind you without thinking, aren't you leading them away from their own power? When you intervene in someone else's struggle, you don't always see that beneath your desire to help. There's also a fear that the person won't manage on their own. You want to make their path easier, but you don't understand that in doing so, you're taking away their chance to learn to overcome obstacles on their own. You think you're saving them, but in reality you're weakening their spirit, depriving them of the opportunity to become strong in their own fight. You're taking away their wings so they can't rise on their own. Don't give in to the temptation to offer a shoulder to everyone who falls. True goodness isn't about supporting weakness. It's about helping others reveal their strength. Support that weakens is not help, but parasitism. True virtue lies in giving a person the chance to rise and walk on their own. It's not about making the path easier, but teaching them how to walk it despite the difficulties. Resisting the temptation to save is a form of respect for another's strength. Give the person the opportunity to learn, grow, rise, and fight. Your goodness shouldn't be chains. It should be a support point upon which someone can stand and learn to move forward. Let them take their own strength. Only then will you be truly kind. Beware the temptation to save everyone. Salvation. How often does this word echo in your life? How often do you feel the need to save others, to cloak them in your virtue, to help them without asking whether they even need saving? Reflect on what drives you when you strive to save. Is it a true desire to help, or perhaps a hidden, barely conscious act of self-assertion? Salvation is not always an act of selfless kindness. Sometimes it is a trap you fall into, where your egoism hides behind the mask of nobility. The salvation you offer may not be so much an act of help as a way to elevate yourself above others. You save, and in the process, you feel your importance, your superiority. You become the hero, the one who can, the one who knows, the one who is capable of changing the world around you. But you forget that for the one being saved, this act might not be liberation, but shackles. Your kindness becomes your tool of power. You save to affirm your significance, to feel needed, to be the one who holds another's life in their hands. Behind the mask of the Savior lies a desire for control, a desire to be the one who influences the world, who dictates the terms. But this is not help. This is manipulation. You don't give the other the opportunity to become strong. You take away their right to autonomy, to choice, to error. You don't save, you subjugate. Don't give in to the temptation to save everyone. True virtue is not about making decisions for others. True salvation is giving a person the chance to find their own way. It is not intervention but respect for their freedom. It is not help but support that doesn't weaken but strengthens. Salvation is not shackles, but wings that you give so the other can fly on their own. Cultivate the strength to observe. A look within is not just an act of self-awareness. It is an attempt to see the truth about what lies behind your actions, behind your good intentions. You say, "I do good," but how often do you stop to ask yourself, what drives you when you do this? Is it a sincere desire to bring light and relief into this world? Or is it a subtle, barely perceptible game of your ego, a desire to feel your worth, your virtue, your significance? The strength of observation is the strength of self-revelation. Every time you strive to do good, you must be ready to face what you are truly seeking. Perhaps you want to help, but you don't realize that deep within that desire lies the need to control, dominate, or, as cynical as it may sound, simply to be seen as good in the eyes of others. You want to be the hero, not just a person. You want others to see your goodness, not just feel it. True strength lies in not running away from these thoughts. To stop and ask yourself, am I playing a game where I am the savior and the world is the one that needs saving? When you do good, you must be ready to break the illusions that live in your heart. Because true virtue is not about being good in the eyes of others, but about being honest with yourself. Cultivate the strength to observe, for only then can you truly become free. Only by observing your motives can you free yourself from the power that your hidden desires have over you. You can become a true creator of good when you learn to see what is really happening in your heart and realize that behind every good deed, there may be not a desire to help, but a desire to be recognized. Do not let external standards define your good. The good you do often turns out to be not truly yours. You follow standards imposed by society, religion, culture. But where are you in all of this? Where are your own rules, your own view of the world, your unique way of being kind? How often do you conform to external pressure, thinking that goodness is only what is accepted, approved, what aligns with standards? But what if true goodness is not following someone else's instructions, but creating your own criteria, your own paths? Do not let others' standards define what goodness is for you. It is a vicious cycle, living by other people's rules and thinking that you are truly living. True freedom comes when you decide for yourself what goodness means. When you stop being a slave to public opinion and start creating goodness according to your own laws, your own code. Every good action you take should be your own choice, not a response to others' expectations. Only then does your virtue become authentic, when you stop viewing the world through the lens of others' perspectives. This requires courage and perhaps loneliness. A loneliness that comes with the realization that your good may not always be understood by those around you, that your rules may not align with the common ones, and that your choices may provoke judgment. But how valuable is this choice? How much higher it rises in your own eyes. Create your own rules, because only then will you find true goodness. True goodness is not about conforming, not about pleasing others. It is about being yourself, even if that path leads to solitude, rejection, disbelief, and doubt. In this path, there is strength, there is truth, there is freedom. Only then will your goodness become unchanging like the laws of nature. Do you see goodness as a tool of power? Goodness is not always what it seems. We often speak of our good deeds as simple, selfless acts of care. But let's turn this question around and ask ourselves, does each of our kind gestures conceal not just the desire to help, but also to control? Is goodness the tool we use to manipulate others and strengthen our power over them? When you perform a good deed, what are you really trying to achieve? Do you want the world to be better, or do you want to be the one who decides what is good for others and what is not? Your kindness might not be a way to relieve others from fear, pain, or poverty. It could be a way to subjugate them to your will, to make them feel dependent on you, on your mercy. Good deeds become instruments of power when you start expecting recognition, gratitude, when you expect the other to feel indebted to you for your generosity. It is in these moments that your kindness stops being kindness and turns into manipulation. You are not giving, you are taking. You are not liberating, you are binding. Every action becomes a deal where you are the winner and the one you help is the debtor. You subjugate them to your will without even noticing. Your good deeds stop being acts of love and become acts of power, aimed at making others acknowledge their weakness before you. Do not be blind to this. Be honest with yourself about your motivations. When you help, are you not expecting something in return? Is your goodness just a facade hiding the desire to control? Only by recognizing this can you free yourself from the power that the abuse of goodness gives you. And only then will your goodness become true, genuine, selfless, and liberating. Remember, true goodness arises from the fullness of life. True goodness cannot be the result of deficiency. It does not emerge from emptiness, nor is it born of weakness or fear. The goodness you create must come from abundance, from strength, from the fullness of life, not from a sense of lack or an internal hunger to fill a void. When you act from fullness, your gesture is infused with genuine energy, not with an attempt to replenish your own losses. It is not an act of desperation, but a gift you can give to the world because you have something to give. Imagine a person who performs good deeds not because they feel obligated or weak, not because their heart is overflowing with pity or guilt, but because they are filled with life. Their actions come from strength, from the very flow of energy they feel within themselves, and which, when unrestrained, is released to touch others. This goodness is not a way to gain attention or recognition. It is not aimed at external approval. It comes from inner fullness, from a state where you feel that you have something important, something valuable, that you can and want to give to the world. When you act from an abundance of strength, your goodness does not weaken or drain you. It makes you stronger because you are sharing what you have, not trying to replenish what you lack. You become a source of energy, not a vessel in which that energy dissipates. Your actions begin to have true meaning because they are not motivated by need, but by freedom. In your goodness, there is no hidden pain, no intention to use it as a means to satisfy personal desires. Your deeds are an expression of your strength, your fullness, your inner light. Remember, true goodness does not give in order to take. It gives because it can. It does not weaken, it strengthens. Only then does it become not just an act of kindness, but an act of power. Thus, in every good deed lies the seed of evil, and in every act of mercy there is a shadow of manipulation. We all play this game where good and evil intertwine, and each one of us is its creator. For only by accepting the darker sides of our actions can we truly become free. Good that brings forth evil is not a horror, but a challenge that lies before us. Let your goodness be sincere, but always remain attentive to what it conceals. The power is in awareness, in the ability to see your true nature behind every act. And remember, true goodness is not born of weakness, but of the abundance of life. I wish you to find this strength and walk your own path, never forgetting that in every act lies not only the bright, but also the shadowed side.